What's going on, everybody? Welcome in. It's another episode of 5 on 5 brought to you by Fantasy Alarm TV. I'm your host, Howard Bender, and as you can see next to me here, back by popular demand, that's right, Justin Fensterman. Fancy people still raving about your breakdown of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and which of the other side characters would have been worth the own had Charlie not done it, had he gotten penalized for that fizzy lifting drink. Nevertheless, here's the story of the game. If you guys are just joining us and you haven't seen one of these before, I give Justin 5 different topics. For each topic, he has 5 minutes to sell his side, give his opinion, whatever the case may be, convince us of an argument. He's got 5 minutes to do it. Once 5 minutes is up, he's going to hear a buzzer. It's probably going to sound something like, maybe it might even sound something like, whatever the case may be, he's got to shut up immediately, and that's the end of that discussion. If he doesn't go the full 5 minutes, well, then he's subjecting himself to some questioning by me. That's right. I get to poke holes in the different theories of Justin if he doesn't go the full 5. So that being said, Justin, how are you today?
Oh, I'm doing well, Howard. You know how it is. We keep pushing forward. That's what it's all about. Always dominate. You know there's no other option.
You're looking lovely in lilac today. Have I told you that yet?
No, you haven't, but thank you very much. That's the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me.
It really makes the chest hair pop.
God, I know you love my chest hair, and back by popular demand. I mean, this is what sells me right here, so might as well just keep it open like Superman.
You know what? Next time, go shirtless. We'll talk about it another time. In the meantime, here we go. Yes, clothing is mandatory still in these times. Still mandatory. So here you go. Fancy, are you ready? I've got my stopwatch going. You good? You ready? You loose? You feeling it?
I'm ready. I'm ready.
All right. Well, then, without further ado, here we go. Question number 1. I'll start the clock when I finish reading the question. What do you do if you're a fantasy basketball league commissioner and the NBA goes right to the playoffs?
Well, the easy option is to just make like the season never happened. Just if there's a payout or payments that you took, just refund everybody in the league. I am not for that, though. That's the easy way out. I don't think it's justified. For those that were in head-to-head formats, you were in the last week or two of your regular season before the fantasy playoffs. You completed nearly the entire regular season. Most of those teams are clinched by now. If you had side payouts, like in my home league, most of those are actually decided already. Why just cancel it out? That's unfair. There's a lot of other options that you can do in order to still justify this fantasy league. One of the things that I actually just thought about 5 minutes ago is you could take the teams that have qualified for the playoffs, do your own playoff contest. It might be by hand, but hey, there you go. You guys draft players from a playoff team and you do your own side playoff contest to determine the rest of those payouts. Or you can do the option that I'm probably likely to do if I don't want to do a hand-scoring playoff contest, even though you know me, I would love to do that. How else would I like to spend my time right now? But another option you could do is pay out some of the winnings to every team that qualified for the playoffs, with first place in the regular season getting a little bit of a bump, and second as well if it's clear who the top 2 record holders are. So that's another option. I don't like just canceling the season. I'm 18-1 in my own league. 18-1, and I'm the commissioner. I should have the right to my payments that I qualified for prior to the halt of the season. And so should all of you. And you should tell your commissioners that and be very nice about it. It's not an easy position to be in. But imagine being the commissioner of this league, dominating the league the entire season. 1 loss. That's it. Just 1 loss. And no, I'm not going to take the entire cut that I probably get.
How many losses?
1 loss. That's it. 1. But I thought you were going to flip me the bird for a second, Howard.
Not yet, baby.
Okay, so bottom line is, am I going to take the entire winnings? No, I am not. I am going to likely divvy up those winnings to those teams that qualify the playoffs. Not all of it, but some of it. Because, yes, I understand that strange things happen in fantasy playoffs, which is why a lot of you prefer roto leagues. So with that, what do you do in roto leagues? You pay out the top few. You want to pay out the top player right now that's up by 20, 25 points with the season halted? I think that's fair. You want to give a second place payout as well if they're in striking distance? Third place payout, I'm fine with that as well. Not as easy to deal with when it comes to Roto, but most of that fantasy regular season was done. For those that are playing Roto, you had maybe a month left in your regular season. And for those that are in fantasy basketball leagues that go to that final half week, you shouldn't be doing that. And next year, you should make sure your season ends a couple of weeks before certain players start getting benched. We're not going to like that. We see it in fantasy football. Overall, it's a tough position for a commissioner to be in. And if you're one of those people that likes to just pick fights for the sake of it, just remember, this is not the easiest position for your fantasy sports commissioner. We're in purgatory right now. What else are we going to do? There's nothing else we can do until we find out what the deal is with the season. Likely going right to the playoffs. We'll have to deal with that. There are a few options I just laid out right there. But the worst thing that you could do is give your commissioner a hard time. And as commissioner, the worst thing you could do is incite that fire. I haven't written much on my league message board because I don't know anything. I don't have any inside tracks. I'm not Woj. Woj doesn't even know right now. Nobody knows. And we won't know anything until the beginning of May, even a clue. So with that, why start a fire and even put it up for debate on your league message board how payouts should be divided until we know an exact blueprint to getting basketball back? If you're doing that, you're putting yourself on fire, just like your league message board. That's your own doing. Don't do that. You don't need to. People come to you individually in your league and ask you, you be honest and tell them until we find a ruling, can't really say too much. If someone else comes to you and asks, same thing. But if you're called out on the league message board, then yes, you can handle it. But be subtle about it because you don't want your league mates to start a mutiny for no reason at all. And if they're disrespectful to you, think about that for next year. You shouldn't have people like that in your league that are giving you a hard time if you're a fantasy sports commissioner.
All right, look at that. And Fence, you come in about 15 seconds short. Anything last you want to say? Make a point there on the last 10 seconds now?
Yes, there's no one way to do this. No one way to do this. There are multiple ways. Find out fantasyalarm.com. In just a day or two, I got the article for you with all the solutions.
All right, listen, man. I dig the whole playoff thing, and I think you can do it for head-to-head and Roto. Is that you can take the head-to-head guys who are going to the playoffs and do a full redraft of that. And I'll tell you, man, if they say that the playoffs are going to happen and RT Sports, they'll set up the player pool. They'll get it all going. You won't even have to do it by hand, Fensty. I think you can do it for head to head, and then I think you can do it for the duration of the playoffs in Roto also. Just say here are the top 6 teams in our 12-team league or 10-team league who are all in striking distance of that first place, money. Let's just do it that way and accumulate the stats and add it to what our previous totals were. I like it. I love it. I want more of it. Next topic, Fensty. All right, so you've been yammering now to me for a couple of days now about this whole How I Met Your Mother, Johnny's the good guy, Daniel's the bad guy. You know that the Karate Kid movie is very near and dear to me. One of my best friends, his uncle actually wrote it. I read that script before it even came out in the theater, before you even knew who Daniel LaRusso was. So, with that, I need to know more about this debunking the How I Met Your Mother theory that Daniel LaRusso is actually the bad guy.
I'll say this has come back up, and every few years this spikes up. But with the Cobra Kai series out there, the Karate Kid series out there with Billy Zabka and Ralph Macchio, it's starting to come up again because of current storylines. And everybody likes to throw this in my face. I don't know if they're just messing with me, which people tend to do a lot of. I'm an easy target to a lot of people. Just listen to Alarm After Hours on Series 210 XM87 at midnight. Shameless plug. But when it comes down to the Karate Kid and this whole thing, it's stupid. And I start chasing this down to see how many people actually believe Barney Stinson and what he had to say. He didn't really say much about why Daniel LaRusso isn't the Karate Kid. He just kept saying that the story was about Johnny Lawrence. Then after doing some research, there are actually videos out there that have millions of views, Howard. Millions! Over 11 million that try to further this type of deal with Johnny Lawrence being the good guy, Daniel LaRusso being the bad guy. So having the photographic memory that I have, here are some plot points that will convince you otherwise and why this whole thing is stupid. Johnny Lawrence is the bad guy. He's the heel. Here's why. Very shortly into the movie, what do you see? Daniel LaRusso hanging out with Elizabeth Shue's character. Yes, hanging out with Allie, with an eye. And what happens? Johnny Lawrence and his crew are sitting there at the top of the hill, and Johnny Lawrence is just jealous. And as Bobby Brown stated, they weren't together anymore, Johnny and Allie. And Bobby Brown says it's ancient history. He's the moral compass of the entire Cobra Kai throughout the entire movie. That's what he is. He says it's ancient history, meaning they've been broken up for a while. Why shouldn't she hobnob with Daniel? She should. She has absolutely every right to. But no, he has to bring his crew because 8 a.m. the next day, he's a senior and he wants to make it work. That's what he wants to do. Goes down, tries to force her into talking to her, takes her radio, breaks her radio. And when Daniel, he butts in a little bit because he's standing up for this girl that he's clearly trying to court. And all of a sudden, a fight breaks out. Now, Daniel's aggressive. He went back at him. And so what does Johnny do? It's clear who has experience in karate and who doesn't. It's very clear. Anyone can see it. And so he beats him up pretty badly. And by the way, Daniel LaRusso's friends, Freddie and all those soccer guys, just leave him high and dry. Let's keep going with why. So now Daniel, just by the way, being at a new school his senior year of high school, how much does that suck? No friends, and already a group of 5 people that are going after him. He has a target on his back, gets kicked out of the soccer practice after being undercut and essentially being kicked in the ankle and tripped. So he responds and he gets kicked out of soccer tryouts. Not his fault. That was set up by the Cobra Kai. That's also Johnny Lawrence, if you didn't realize by now. Johnny Lawrence then, because he sees Daniel looking into the Cobra Kai studios, sees him, he decides to ride him off the road when he's riding his bike, falls down a hill, hurts himself. So what does Daniel do? He responds, okay, Johnny Lawrence is rolling joints in the bathroom during the dance. Daniel decides to pour a little water on him. But does pouring a little water on someone, does that warrant a beatdown where he's beaten to an inch of his life? It's a 5-on-1 attack, and here comes the moral compass again. Bobby Brown saying, hey, Johnny, he's had enough. He's within an inch of his life. He could have gotten kicked right in the face. That could have been the end of him, but Mr. Miyagi saved him. A 5-on-1 beatdown. So you think that's it?
I gotta interject here because you're giving me all the reasons that Daniel is the good guy here. What the hell is the myth that Johnny is the good guy? Like, how is that possibly even proven?
Dude, they try to say that Daniel stole his girl, that Daniel poured the water on him, and he kept the rivalry going. When he had a target on his back the entire time, they were going to approach him after the deal was made that no touching him until the All Valley tournament. They tried to corner him once again, but luckily Daniel used his street smarts to go up to the teacher and use him as a shield. They were going to go right up to him.
From the streets of Reseda.
Yes. LaRusso, third period, right? That's what he uses to protect himself. Then when the fight comes, can they wait till they get in the ring? No. They corner him in the locker room. And Johnny Lawrence and Dutch are about to beat him up in a handicap match, and luckily the referee's right there. You ask why else, by the way, that they think Johnny's the good guy. They say Daniel's kick, the crane kick, was illegal. Why wasn't it called then? Plenty of other non-points were called during that matchup between the final and the second to final point. Why wasn't that?
All right, listen, there is no doubt in my mind that you, Justin Fensterman, are a huge Daniel LaRusso fan. You believe he is the good guy, the white knight, the knight in shining armor, whatever you want to say.
Miyagi-Do karate.
Miyagi-Do.
Miyagi.
What's up with the yellow DeSoto? Come on, the convertible. Like, if you couldn't have picked the worst car out of the whole lot. The whole lot.
He did. Why pick a light-colored car? Is it weird that when I first saw that, by the way, and I was about 13, 14, that I was like, wow, he's going to get stopped by the cops a lot in that.
That is a little strange. Moving right along here. All right. So, Fensty, one of our favorite topics on Monday Night Alarm After Hours, we like to talk Survivor. I know, you can do your Boston Rob impression, no problem here. But I'm going to tell you, I'm going to throw this one at you. Why are all the men on Survivor a bunch of idiots? And which woman is going to win this year?
Why are the men a bunch of idiots? Their social games are awful. I'm really surprised that all of these people on this season have won before. They are making themselves obvious targets. Let's start with Boston Rob, who you just imitated so well before, because when you're, like he said in Island of the Idols, when you're on Survivor, relationships are very important. So with that,
it sounds like Boston Rob had sex with Elmer Fudd.
Duh. I'll say this, though. These guys aren't making any relationships. Jeremy's sitting there with that evil grin on his face the entire time, and I'm wondering why he's priced up so high on FanDuel every single week leading into the episode. It just doesn't make any sense. Yes, people want to think he's the ringleader, but he's not doing anything. He's not saying anything. He's helping out with the challenges. That's it. Nick is just riding the pine. What has this guy done? Now he makes a little fit. No one takes me seriously. Yeah, we all see why. You could never have watched the show before and realize why you're so lame. You're not making any moves. You're not making any relationships. Other guys like Boston Rob, even when he was in there, I mean, he tried to be the dominant force in a round of winners. Thought he was a little too quick on that. Calling himself the Godfather. No, play possum. Do that. And speaking of playing possum, that's what Tyson's trying to do. And he's not doing a good job of it and hasn't in past seasons. Another surprise that he won. He's lucky he's so good with the physical challenges, but I have a better social game than any of these guys combined. I invented a social game, and if it comes to these guys, they don't have a social game. Ben has said one thing the entire show, and that was that, well, Adam, where are you voting? Are you voting for me, Adam? I mean, that's it. You're flat out asking him. You're ruining your relationships. You're putting yourself on an island. I just don't get it with these guys. They're just.
Can you imitate everybody? Can you do an imitation for everyone?
Oh, Adam is like, I was like, I asked him, and he's like, I don't know what's going on, as he said during the season. Like, that's Adam. I mean, Jeremy, you can't even say anything for Jeremy. He's just sitting there being like, with this look. Like Mr. Skin, like that. So that's all he's doing. He's sitting there smiling. That's all he's doing. Tony, I love Tony. I remember the season when he won, and I think he's an excellent player. But why is he not doing anything? He hasn't played a lick of offense. I get it, he's just trying to play cool, but we're post-merger now. Let's go. Let's get a new alliance formed. Cops Are Us, I know didn't work, but you got Sarah there, who, by the way, you asked me who I think's going to win. I think Sarah's got full control of this game, and it's not even close. She doesn't even have to say anything. She's just been nice. She's sacrificed her rewards. She knows what it takes out there. And meanwhile, Sophie's crying. It's so cold. You want Survivor. And the reason that you're still in, besides the fact that you have an idol, is that you're being protected by Sarah, the ringleader. She's going to be in my MVP spot in DFS every single week until she's eliminated. And if they're smart on the island, they'll look to get rid of her immediately because she's secretly controlling the game. Nick right now has a huge target on his back because he's trying to go after Sarah. And she's not making a stink of it, Howard. She's not going and being a gossip queen about it, telling every single person. No, she told Sophie, and that's it. Her one true alliance member. These guys aren't doing anything. Yul, what did Yul do? Being the nice guy doesn't work in a round of winners. It just doesn't. You did nothing. Boston Rob tried to be too much of that power person, the Godfather. Well, who doesn't want to take out Don Corleone, huh? Salazzo, huh? Salazzo, you remember that. You can go down the line, and it just doesn't make sense as to why nobody is going after Sarah and trying to put some kind of alliance together to take her out. Seems pretty obvious, and she's playing both sides very well. And in a round of winners, Howard, this is kind of embarrassing that she's gotten this far with hardly any shine on her.
Hardly any is right. The only problem with using her in the MVP slot all the time, Fensty, is that she's not winning challenges. She's not winning immunity. She just has a kick-ass social game that obviously everybody is, keeps her off the radar. So, from a DFS standpoint, is it smart to keep using her, or do you go better challenge people.
So and this is where I have to admit, I should know. I believe she does have something to protect her. I believe she either has an idol or she has a special advantage to protect her. I think that's going to come of use soon enough. Part of it is, Howard, the reason I say this, you'll never know.
You'll never, ever, ever know. We'll have to hold that thought. Or you know what? Just tweet at Fensty Sports and say, I need to know. Hashtag Survivor. Survivor. Next topic. Here you go. Fensty. You are the biggest proponent of free agent acquisition budget, I know. Fab is a must to you. Waiver priority should be used only as a tiebreaker, if not extinct. Fensty, why is Fab a must? What's wrong with using waiver priority?
Because you'll have a lot more players just sit on that for most, if not the entire season. And it's just not good to really not have. We talk about control of your own destiny in fantasy sports. That's why I'm a big proponent of auctions. You guys heard that from last week's video. This is kind of like the same thing in that regard. I like having a budget there. I like being able to outbid players without having to worry whether or not I'm putting myself at risk, like on the game of Survivor, where I don't know what else anybody has and what moves that they can make. The person that has the number one waiver claim will likely sit on it for the entire season, if not most of the way. That's so boring and stupid. It's not as rolling, and it's not going to have your players, your league mates, take as many risks. If you want more when it comes to transactions, which I know is a big selling point, even when it comes to adding and dropping players, also a transaction, you should do Fab. And also, it's just more fun in general. Having the waiver priority, thinking about how much you're going to bid at this time, it adds a whole new element to the game. And plus, seeing that whole Fab option, and this might force you more against it, but seeing what players are spending on those missed bids, it gives me a little bit of intel on what my opponents are looking for. The best thing in fantasy, and something that I got to talk about more, is knowing your opponent. Talked about a little bit last week. Having those communications, having a strong social game is important in fantasy sports, especially when you've been in the same leagues with your friends for the last 8 to 10 years. Fab helps out those teams that still save up with a low waiver priority. Obviously, if a team is in last or second to last, they're likely going to be going on and off the waivers even more. It's going to put them to the back of the line every single time. And I don't like that. I don't think it should be like that. I think it should be when you need to spend big, you need to spend big. What did I do last year? I made a huge mistake. When Kerryon Johnson went down, I spent $78 freaking dollars, my worst bid ever, my worst acquisition ever on Ty Johnson. Didn't work out so well. But I was able to do that because at a critical point of the season, with already more running backs injured, I needed to go all in. If I'm sitting there with the number 5 spot, I'm not going to get him any time. If I'm sitting there with the number 1 spot, I'm now questioning myself. Is now the time? Is this the must moment? Is this that moment that's going to change the face? Is this the climax of my team's story right now? I don't have to worry about that as much when I have a free agent acquisition budget. Like I said, and this is why I defend things like playoffs and head-to-head over Roto, I just like that kind of action when it comes to being able to bid. I just like that I can utilize a certain amount of money on a player and then have that chance again towards the end of the season. You're unlikely to get that chance when it comes to waiver priority. Use it as a tiebreaker, same bid, whoever has the higher waiver priority wins, and then they go to the back of the line. That's how it should be used.
Indeed, indeed. All right, well, but what happens, Fensty, when you're sitting there and, you know, you've been using the free agent acquisition budget all year long, baseball's a long season, and, you know, you've been hit hard with injuries, but you fought back and you've purchased some players and you've gotten them, but now come all of a sudden the last month or two of the season, obviously 2020 notwithstanding, but there you are, the last month and a half of the season, call-ups are happening, whatever, and you just haven't been able to save the money. So now you could be in like second, third, you could even be in first place because, you know, you did a great job. But now all of a sudden everybody else is able to grab players and you got no money. What do you do? Like, how fair is that?
Well, this comes down to budget. You're asking a whole new thing on how to spend your budget. Now, it doesn't mean everybody's spending. Those teams in first place that haven't used a waiver claim for most of the year, and I have seen a lot of teams like this with waiver priority, they're likely sitting on that pick until that time anyway. So that's why I think
not for an entire baseball season. I mean, they're basically waiting until a big name comes up, and whether that's 2 months into the season, 3 months into the season, but nobody's sitting there holding that number one waiver priority in April and May because they want to hold it till September. That doesn't work.
That's how it's been in the leagues that I've been in, though.
Well, what kind of idiots are you playing with?
People on our channel, Howard.
Like who? Like who? Like, I mean, really? Like, who would sit? I need a name. I need to call him out right here, right now.
I have to go back into my leagues and check.
Is it Drew Phelps? Is it Drew Phelps?
Drew Phelps would wait on his waiver claim. Yes.
Okay. Would Dan Servideo?
Dan Servideo, unless it's an Eagle, he's waiting on the waiver claim.
Phil Backert.
Phil Backert's not waiting on the waiver claim.
Sandra Anello.
Sandra's putting it on Chris Moore in week 2.
We got time. That's it. That's it for that one there. I even went over there naming Sirius XM people. All right, so Fab is the way to go for Justin Fensterman. Keep that in mind if you guys want to do a league with Fensty. That's the way you lure him in. Last topic. Here we go. Inspired by what I can only imagine was the craziest moments between you and Adam Ronis. 5 things or phrases you shouldn't text people during a time like this.
This is very important, and some people we work with, like Adam Ronis, a.k.a. Splinter, doesn't realize this, that right now is not supposed to be a time for impractical jokers. Watch the show. Don't try this at home right now. It's a bad time, not ideal. So what happens on Monday night? I get a text late at night that says, did you hear the bad news? That is the worst thing that you can text someone ever. The first thing that came to mind is, who has COVID-19? The next thought that comes to mind is, do we still have jobs? These are thoughts that I really don't like thinking about more than I already have to. So with that, don't do that. Stop with the preambles. I learned this from watching Sopranos. Enough with the preambles. Just get right to the question. Yes, I know we're good friends. Yes, you can tell me anything. Just give me bad news. And if you're, by the way, did you hear the bad news? Did you hear? You hear? Any of those derivatives? Do not text anybody that. It's a scary time we live in. If you have that kind of news, you shouldn't be texting anyway. I know it's not new age. I know it's not hip and cool and rad, Dan. But still, make the call. Just do it. You have to make the call. That's number 1. Number 2, OMG. That also falls in line with the did you hear the bad news? I know we like saying, OMG, oh my God, haha. Same time, no, don't do that. Don't do that. We can't read through text. One of the big lessons that Howard Bender taught me about 2.5 years ago was don't try to take the emotion out of text between people. And that's a damn good lesson for a time like this. But you guys can't text OMG because that's automatically going to be assumed that it's bad. Just give the news. Don't give the reaction. Follow it up. If you're going to text OMG to start, because people like to send.
We better see those 3 dots.
It's awful. Oh, the 3 dots are even worse. But you know what? At the same time, OMG, do not text anybody that. I can't believe it. Okay. Normally people say this when maybe a celebrity or public figure has passed away. That's how I've experienced this. I don't like this. Another thing, do not send, I can't believe it. Also, negative connotation makes people freak out. If you're following up immediately, this doesn't apply to you. If your name is Adam Ronis and you don't follow up for the next 24 hours, Adam Ronis, then that's going to make me lose more hair, if that's even possible, on the top of my head. We don't want that to happen now, do we? Of course not. I can't believe it. Do not text these idiotic things to other people.
Okay, so did you hear... you can't. So, did you hear OMG and I can't believe it so far? Yes. 3. All right.
Here's one I get a lot. And this normally happens when an NBA player is injured. But now we're in critical times. Damn, man. Don't send me that. Don't send anybody that.
Who's texting you?
Don't say just a text. Damn, man. Because then I go to Twitter, I see someone random trending, and I assume that they're no longer with us. I don't like to assume these things. They make me freak out. They make me paranoid. Say it if I give you a piece of bad news, then you can respond with, damn, man. Ronus beat me in the contest on Alarm After Hours last night. Damn, man. That's different. Don't just out of the blue, out of left field, text me, damn man. Damn man, you can. Damn man, you cannot. So no damn man. That's one I've been receiving way too much, and you shouldn't be texting people that without other words attached to it. Finally, wow. That's another one. Wow. Wow, it's not a good thing. These are all things that we're going to assume because of what we're dealing with every day, that it's going to be bad things. If you have good news, if you have bad news, just say the news. Stop with the preamble. Don't give me the instantaneous reaction. This isn't a radio show. This is texting and communication between two human beings. And if you have bad news, call someone and tell them the bad news. Don't just text them. Don't make it be like a guessing game. This isn't Guess Who.
Well, but can't you assume that if they're just texting you that it's not horrifying news?
No, because then you have people like Adam Ronis who are glued to texting and never call. And then because of that, I have to assume that's the number.
Man, he really pushes your buttons, doesn't he? Adam Ronis really does get you going.
It doesn't have to be that way, but it is that way.
It doesn't have to be that way, but it oftentimes is. All right. Well, there you go, guys. A little 5-on-5 with Justin Fensterman, Fantasy Basketball League commissioning. Daniel LaRusso is a bad guy? Nah, brah. The Survivor guys are all idiots. Fensty does an amazing array of impressions. Fab is a must, and a lot of very few interjections can be used in texting right away. Just give them the bad news, no pretext, no preamble. All right, Fensty, I love it, dude. Thank you so much. Thanks for joining.
Thank you for hanging with me, Howard. This has been a nice therapy session, a nice release.
I appreciate that, and I'm glad for that you got a nice little cathartic release there for yourself. It helps you. Yeah, listen, I have these little moments on the radio also, and that keeps me from killing my wife. How about that one there?
Goose fraba.
Ooh, goose fraba. So on that note, that's going to do it for today's episode of 5-on-5. Big thanks to Matt Sells, our producer. For Justin Fensterman, the amazing Justin Fensterman, I'm Howard Bender of Fantasy Alarm TV. Thanks so much for watching. We'll catch you next time.